Hello everyone, students and alike. Today we're going to be doing a mini lecture on joints for anatomy. Now we can classify joints as, in general, an articulation between two bones, so where two bones meet, but we can also classify them functionally and structurally. So functionally we have synarthrotic, amphiarthrotic, and diarthrotic joints. So synarthrotic joints have practically no movement. Amphiarthrotic joints have limited movement or a wide range of movements. Diarthrotic have high motility, so very high movements, like the glenohumeral joint between the humerus and the glenoid cavity of the scapula. Now, structurally, we have cartilaginous joints, fibrous joints, and synovial joints. So let's get into our fibrous joints. So fibrous joints are synarthrotic, meaning they have no movement whatsoever. So there's three subclasses of fibrous joints in there. The syndesmosis, the suture, and the gomphosis. Syndesmosis is a fibrous connection between two bones. So an example of that would be interosseous ligaments, so between the ulnar and radius. We have the radial-ulnar ligament here. That's to keep them together. Now, a gomphosis is a fibrous connection between the teeth and the alveolar process. It's unique to teeth. And then the ligament that would connect the teeth to the alveolar socket would be called the periodontal ligament. Okay, so fibrous joints, fibrous connective tissue, lots of collagen. All right, now cartilaginous joints. So cartilaginous joints are largely amphiarthrotic. You can see how the functional and structural kind of merge together. Now, the two subclasses of cartilaginous joints are the symphysis and the synchondrosis. Symphyses are composed of fibrocartilage, while synchondroses are composed of hyaline cartilage. So an example of a symphysis would be the pubic symphysis, right here. Another example would be the vertebral column. They would have intervertebral discs, and that's shock absorbers. So a lot of symphyses are shock absorbers, like the vertebral column. If you didn't have any intervertebral discs and you kind of jumped and fell down on quite a bit of a height, then you'd probably crack all of your vertebrae. And, an example of a synchondrosis or hyaline cartilage would be the epiphyseal plate. So the growth plate right here. Epiphyseal line, or the plate, is considered a joint. Another would be the first joint between the first row of ribs and the manubrium of the sternum. That would also be a synchondrosis. So that's it for cartilaginous joints. There's a lot more, but this is just the basic intro. So synovial joints are largely diarthrotic. So, high range of movement. Synovial joints make up the vast majority of human joints and are much more complex than cartilaginous or fibrous joints. They have a lot of different components going on, and they're very diverse in their components. Synovial joints are surrounded by an articular capsule, so this thing, and they're lined with a synovial membrane. And on the inside, synovial joints are filled with synovial fluid. If you don't have a capsule, you'll have synovial fluid will flow out. So how do you think of synovial fluid? Well, it's composed of water, and water has a high specific heat, meaning it can absorb lots of heat before it begins to heat up. So that specific heat capacity allows the joint to have high friction without having high heat. Heat is very detrimental to biological systems due to the nature of the proteins. So high friction, the synovial fluid will cool down the friction between the joints. So say your knee joint, maybe a lot of synovial fluid. Now, synovial joints have a variety of different associative structures, and we'll get into that right after the slide. So that's it for the basic structure of synovial joints. And one more thing, the articular cartilage inside of synovial joints is always hyaline cartilage. So I'll write that down. I don't have it written down here, but the articulating surfaces is always hyaline cartilage, and we call it articular cartilage. The articular capsule here, the synovial membrane, and the synovial fluid. And then the two articulating bones. Alright, so intracapsular ligaments are a component of synovial joints only because synovial joints are the only joints to have a capsule. Alright, so intracapsular ligaments are ligaments that are contained within the articular capsule. An example is the acetobulofemoral joint or the tibiofemoral knee joint. An example, the posterior cruciate ligament and the anterior cruciate ligament. There'd be a capsule around this whole joint, around everything here, the medial collateral, lateral collateral, and then you would have a capsule around it. It'd be inside the synovial fluid, and it helps with stability and mobility. And remember, the fovea capitis of the femur runs. There's a ligament that runs in there. The pelvic femoral ligament attaches inside of that fovea capitis and inside of the acetabellum. Now, another very unique structure associated with synovial joints are the menisci. So there's a lateral meniscus on the outside of the tibiofemoral joint and the medial meniscus, and those are discs of fiber cartilage that kind of even further reduces friction between the joints because the knee is extremely involved with movement and everything. You need to have it with the lowest the friction possible, and that's why a lot of people even then have problems with the knees as they get older. And you don't even have to be particularly old to have problems with your knees. And knee problems are very common as you get older. My mom has knee problems, um, and she's not even that old. So you can even get arthritis very easily. All right, so synovial joints. There's another associative structure called the bursae. So bursae or bursae are fluid-filled sacs or filled with synovial fluid that often line surfaces of synovial areas, not necessarily between the articulating bones, but the main function is to decrease the friction between the joints. So it would have the infra and suprapatellar bursae here, and they would kind of reduce friction between the muscle and the bone or wherever it's located. So you have a bursa right above the patella. You can potentially feel it, but it's a very delicate sac. And sometimes it become inflamed, and it would be called a bursitis. So an inflammation of the suffix would be bursitis. Okay, so we have next we have the labra. So labrum. These are lip-like structures that line ball and socket joints like the acetobullofemoral joint or the glenohumeral joint. And labra, or singular labrum, they increase the hold on the joint to make it harder for dislocation to occur in high risk or very strong joints. So, example, the glenoid labrum. So we have the glenoid labrum here lining the glenoid cavity, and they kind of extend outwards. They kind of have a greater hold on the joint. So deeper sockets, we have an evolutionary advantage to have deeper sockets, because if we didn't, then that joint would pop out really easily and hurt a lot and be very suboptimal for us. And that's why you don't see many shoulder dislocations often, except in high energy accidents or very heavy collisions. All right, well, that was pretty much it for joints. And in the next video, we will be going over body axes and how these joints all tie together. And we do flexion, extension, the anterior posterior axis, the longitudinal axis, and the transverse axis. But I really hope this video helped you in learning about basic types of joints. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.